All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to another video. Today we have a treasure trove of information for you, or, well, we're going to take a look at JP and team building. What's hot, what's not, what's good, and what's super cool. That's right, fire and ice is thematic. So let's get the boring part of the video out of the way. Hey, guess what? Have you heard of the tier 0 characters? They include this guy now. That is including Ashen Spring Joom, and AC Sephiroth, who... is he a one-trick pony? We're not here to discuss that here today, but that's coming soon. But yeah, these 4 characters are considered to be tier 0. And in terms of the boring part of this video, let's get it out of the way that if you just stick 3 of these 4 characters into a party, it's damn good. It's just damn good. I mean, you put the strongest characters in the game after this power jump, they make an amazing team and are really, really good and will probably carry you for a bunch of months, depending here and there on a support unit or something. But yeah, that's all well and good, and it's absolutely dull for talking about because it's just not very interesting team composition. So we're skipping that. Let's go on to the next part, which is talking about just where Gilgamesh has landed. Gilgamesh has landed in tier 0, and taking just a quick look at game 8, a website that does put him and a bunch of other tier 0 characters, they have updated their strongest party organization ranking to be this: big swords, mono soil, and mono water. And for that point, let's just touch on these very quickly. Mono water is essentially good because there's a bunch of mono fire featuring Sephiroth out there. It is much closer than it used to be, but generally water will still come out on top. So yeah, water I can still be in up there. Soil is curious because soil doesn't really have any great matchups anymore. And yeah, these other 2 are just so far behind. I mean, sometimes you can get them on evasion, but that's not incredibly reliable a lot of the time nowadays. So whatever. The other party on here, Big Sword, I actually do think is worth a consideration, just because it is actually pretty good. Spring Joom, Lightning Astrius, which is good for countering other Spring Jooms, and AC Cloud is a very, very strong party composition. It's not as good as just all tier 0 characters, but I think that these 3 are relatively well represented of tier 1 party comps for the most part. At least until the previous week. So let's touch on the thing that is basically my life right now, which is in arena fire parties and Sephiroth everywhere. For as much as Ashen Mons and whatnot have been everywhere lately, yeah, Sephiroth is just everywhere. Even more so, with even Aquavite putting him in a party just because he is actually that good, and curse status effect is that good. You can make runes already for curse resistance, and there is already things in the game, ways in the game to prevent curse. Well, not particularly viable ways, but still. Curse is very, very strong, but it isn't completely unfair, kind of. Anyway, but like, mono fire is the thing that I do want to touch on for first real thing in this video, which just basically consists of, not that, now I can't find it, damn it, yeah, 2800. Something similar to this, but it's basically Soul, AC Sephiroth, and Volk is considered to be the best. Soul is just still a very, very strong unit with a very strong limit burst, and Volk is a great defensive unit, and Sephiroth cuts off a lot of healing. So mono fire has been generally really good. And given the impressions that I've gotten from looking at videos over the last week, I think that, oh, hold on, that's the wrong one. Just in case people want to know what music we were using this time. I'm just gonna here and click button. There we go. Mono Ice is actually the one to watch. Peachin did a test video of basically the new version of Gilgamesh in a bunch of different parties, with a bunch of different compositions, varying great swords, light, water, and mono ice. And I have to say, mono ice with Oldoa and A2 was surprisingly really strong. I'm not entirely sure if like throwing out June would have been better from this party. But in terms of team building, taking a look at it, we have Dark Golem, we have a Laswell card, Dark Shiva, the Ice Dragon card, Dark Titan, and the A2 vase, which is definitely expensive. I'm not going to say that. That's 390 cost fee with 2 permanent ones, as well as a limited time BC. So BC wise, it's fairly expensive, but the lack of holo BCs actually is more of a benefit for me recommend. Looking at TMRs as well, Bells, King Bradley's, and Dario's are all reasonably obtainable. So I think this is actually totally fine. But Mono Ice is looking really good, with the one thing holding it back being Sephiroth. So I've seen like just some people recently speaking a little bit ill of Sephiroth, thinking that his DPS isn't super important, or that when Curse is just gone. Like, yeah, like Charm is absolutely gone. Charm, you know, the Dolly was really good with Charm for a very long time, and it's only because other units came out that were essentially stronger that kind of, you know, mitigate that it ended up being okay to not just even care about it. Curse being generally strong is really important, and I would even say that Curse being in the meta is actually very healthy from a JP player perspective who's been playing the game for now. With so much HP restoral, making units last so much longer and potentially just out-survive a ton of other stuff, Curse is actually a great status effect for bringing just a little bit back. Because first off, like, it's only on one attack that Sephiroth has, and then the AI doesn't necessarily always AoE an entire team with it. But I'd have to say that it's generally pretty fair. But looking how Mono Ice is kind of doing the water thing with the amount of HP renewal it has between something like A2, Oldoa, and Gilgamesh, you know, Curse is actually really important, because out of all these videos that Peachin tested with this team, only teams with Sephiroth were actually able to decently fight back against it. Partially just because of, like, this team is actually capable of dealing a pretty good amount of damage, but also, as it, you know, does rely on this HP restore, and it is good. It is very good. But yeah, Gilgamesh is actually looking like a really solid threat in this party. The hate down on him essentially means that he's the last thing to get hit, which is scary because he is actually very powerful. A2's HP restoral here also goes a long way to keeping the tank alive, and a tank that can essentially generate a lot of hate. But then you have the secondary attacks too, which work generally well with this group, giving strong units like A2 a really nice follow-up attack without ever really too terribly needing that follow-up attack themselves. So it's good. It's, you know, a much stronger Bartz that is just generally much stronger. But taking a quick look through some of these matches, a lose into a party of Mono Earth, which ends up in a loss. Pure Light. And obviously he didn't put it against Mono Fire, but, you know, that's just whatever. And you can tell with the amount of HP they have left, it's not going to end well. This is the one party that actually did do enough. Just scrolling ahead to later in the fight, you can see it's pretty close with the amount of damage that they are capable of doing. Here, Sephiroth's going to get hit. But this is what I mean. When you have a really strong mono element, it's kind of good that Sephiroth came out first, because he is such a deterrent against how strong this team is looking, where it's winning against a lot of other teams. You know, not perfect, but it is just showing how good it can potentially be. Man Spear here. Yeah. Point being is that Peachin's video showed off that Mono Ice was particularly very strong. Peachin also did show off a secondary team, which focused, you know, around the Greatsword idea in combination. And I think it's fine. There's enough VCs to support this, but its performance didn't seem as high for Gilgamesh as well as we had seen with the previous team. So that's kind of the thing I want to highlight. But the thing that it does seem particularly nasty, switching over to a different video, is taking a look at Ashen Mont in combination with Gilgamesh, because as we all know, Ashen Mont is a character that likes to use his limit burst. Gilgamesh, as we are learning, is actually very good at casting some of his support follow-up skills. So just scrolling ahead here, taking a look at it. Again, very, very strong team of all tier 0 characters. And on the other side, we got June, we got Gilgamesh, and we have Water Veritas, which is an interesting combination, but you think about it, and water and ice goes pretty well together. Get that debuff in there. And scrolling ahead, because this is not my video, so I don't want to do too much of someone else. And we can see that this is, in fact, a really strong team. That follow-up attack hitting for that and healing for about 6,000 HP. Taking a look at a secondary team, which is Pure Ice with Ice Howlet, being still a overall net win, even against a very strong opposing team. And the last team I want to highlight is just whatever this is supposed to be, which is basically follow-up attack central, which is kind of fun. Parts in this is not particularly what we're focusing on. What we are interested in is essentially Ashen Mont and Gilgamesh together, which is kind of fun. So Ashen Mont casting his limit burst, speed up it just a little bit. Sorry for the flashing lights. And now we have that secondary attack in on Ashen. Cool. So we'll just watch this for a second, and then nice big AoE hit, good amounts of damage. Secondary attack from Bart's, going at about 400 points of damage, which isn't really all that impressive. But then you look at this, with Gilgamesh hitting from the back, and 3,000 extra points of damage ain't nothing to see at. So coming back all the way back to team composition, which I think is pretty interesting. Highlights for me this week when it comes to team building is very much the Mono Ice, which is looking very good, but will, thankfully have some resistance against Mono Fire. Even if that team does become very popular, it should have a direct counter, and then Mono Fire kind of loses to all tier 0, so I'd say it's fairly balanced. We're getting at least some kind of a triangle. But if you're looking for some shenanigans and potential more fun builds, you might want to look at Ashen Mont as well as Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is also a permanent actual character, which is good news, means that the cost of building him is slightly lower and a little less intense than trying to build some of the other characters, although you do need Ash. Taking a look also at the VCs on display here, again, A2 VC, kind of hard to get away from that one. That one seems to just be quite a bit in the number of compositions, as well as Love for Hero from FF5 and the Light Dragon Shinryu, as well as the 90 cost Dark Shiva. But overall, generally lower cost for at least the front end of the team you're looking. So yeah, taking a look at what is generally good, if I was to make a summary, which is kind of the job of this video, I would have to say that overall tier 0 is still looking like the most solid thing. It's just that time right now where you can leverage really strong characters against characters that are essentially at a disadvantage. What you gonna do, right? But in terms of, I forgot to loop the music video. In terms of things that are starting to stand out a little bit more, Monofire, Volk, Soul, and AC Sephiroth, while not in the arena batch that I have here, unfortunately, is looking to be a really, really, really good group. Mono Ice featuring Old Doa A2 and the new version of Gilgamesh is looking very, very strong, but maybe not necessarily the best composition. I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if you could switch out some of that for Spring June, but I haven't seen enough evidence yet to convince me over Peachin's video, which looked pretty thorough in the most of the testing. But Spring June would prevent a little bit more of a surprise by your character just wiping or being the changing factor in the game. However, I think that my team of the week is between Ashen Mont and Gilgamesh. It's such a weird, fun combination to have like follow-up attack and follow-up attack just generally playing off each other. It's a fun idea, and there's a lot to potentially support it. So it's kind of my favorite thing of this week in terms of team building. I think that third unit spot in that composition is a little bit open. But anyway, those are my thoughts for team building on this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if I could do it, I would, but heavily invested here. Thanks for watching. Here, see you later.